Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Settle in close to the fire, because tonight's story belongs to the dark stretch of winter. Those dangerous 12 nights when the world feels thinner, the shadows stretch a little longer, and the veil between the human world and the things that crawl beneath it becomes frighteningly fragile. These are the nights when Greece whispers about creatures that most people laugh off. That is, until the scratching begins on the window, until the wood creaks, until something small, fast, and wicked slips into your home. Tonight, we travel into one of the oldest and strangest European legends, creatures born from smoke, winter chill, and a little pinch of mischief, far darker than the Christmas elves we all know today. Tonight, we tell the tale of the Kallikantzaroi. Every winter, beginning at midnight on Christmas Eve, an ancient fear settles across rural Greece. Old women shutter their windows. Shepherds carry torches to light the edges of their barns. Mothers draw small protective crosses on doors, hearths, and even the foreheads of sleeping children. Because for 12 nights, the Kallikantzaroi roam. To understand them, you have to imagine creatures that don't quite fit in our world. Picture a body hunched like a starving wolf, but walking upright. Long arms that drag on the ground. Skin the color of wet soot or charred wood. Eyes too large for their skulls, glowing red or yellow depending on the village you ask. And teeth. Jagged, broken, razor-like, as if they chew stone more often than food. But the strangest thing? They laugh. Constantly, wildly, and unsettlingly. A hyena's cackle echoing through the alleyways at 3 o'clock in the morning. Those creatures are tricksters, but not the mischievous, kid-friendly kind. Their pranks are dangerous, their games cruel, and their origins? Well, that's where the old storytellers disagree. One of the oldest versions of the legend claims the Kallikantzaroi don't live on Earth at all, at least not most of the year. Instead, they spend their days in the underworld gnawing at the roots of the great world tree, the cosmic trunk that holds our reality in place. They hack and chew and saw at the roots, eager to bring the entire world crashing down. But there's a problem. They're very easily distracted, and nothing distracts them more than Christmas. Just when they're about to finish the job, right when the tree begins to creak, the bells of Christmas Eve toll, and they abandon their work. They climb up into the human world where mischief, noise, and chaos call to them like a siren song. They stay until Epiphany on January 6th. Then they sink back underground, only to find the world tree has healed itself during their absence, and so they begin again, eternally. Some villages tell an even darker version. They say the Kallikantzaroi come not just for destruction, but for children, specifically babies born during the 12 days of Christmas. Such children, they whispered, are not even human. If a baby came into the world during this cursed window, the Kallikantzaroi might slip into the cradle at night. They would touch the child's forehead. Sometimes they'd prick the toes. Sometimes they would whisper strange, circular words in the baby's ears. And that child would grow to become one of them. To prevent this fate, villagers smeared newborns with garlic paste, tied red ribbons around their wrists, or even lightly singed the child's toenails with a candle flame, just enough to ward off the goblins, but never enough to harm. At least, that was the hope. The Kallikantzaroi prefer homes with chimneys, cracks, or gaps, any entryway that warmth escapes through. Picture this, a family sleeping in a small mountain home. The fire is burned low. Outside, snow falls silently across the fields and olive groves, and then, thump, a sound in the chimney. Ash drifts across the hearth. Then, fingers emerge, long and clawed, feeling for purchase. A head follows. A wide grin splits a soot-blackened face. Eyes shimmer in the dying firelight. Once inside, the creatures scatter. One crawls beneath the table and steals the bread. Another drinks the wine. Another ties the donkey's tail to the rafters just because it's hilarious to watch the confusion in the morning. But the cruelest will creep to the bedside, whisper your name, tickle your feet, or sit on your chest and press until you gasp awake, paralyzed with fear. And always, always they laugh. To keep the creatures from slipping down the chimney, families burned a special log meant to last all 12 nights. As long as the fire never died, the Kallikantzaroi could not enter. But every year, someone let the fire burn too low. Sometimes by accident, sometimes because they fell asleep. and sometimes because the creatures whispered dreams into their minds, urging them to rest just a moment longer. For once you sleep, you cannot protect the flame. Now let me tell you the story from a tiny settlement perched on the slopes of Mount Pelion. They say this story happened in the winter of 1893, and the villagers still talk about it today. A widow lived with her young son Andreas. He was born on December 27th, right in the middle of the cursed days. The neighbors pitied her, convinced the boy would eventually turn feral, touched by the winter spirits. But she adored him, protected him, and lit her Christmas log every night. On the fourth night of the season, she noticed the fire wouldn't stay lit. Every time she stoked it, it sputtered. Smoke curled the wrong direction, winding down the chimney instead of up. And then she heard it. A laugh, high and sharp, echoing from the flue. She froze. The laughter came again, this time accompanied by the sound of scratching. Something was climbing down the chimney. The woman did what most villagers did. She grabbed a handful of burning white embers, ignoring the burns, and tossed them up the chimney, filling it with sparks and smoke. The scratching stopped, but the laughter didn't. The next night, everything got worse. The goats refused to enter the barn. The dogs barked at nothing. Footprints appeared outside the home, small and clawed, too many to count. Inside, things began to move. A pot slid off a shelf. Bread vanished. And at midnight, Andreas woke screaming. His mother rushed to him, heart pounding. The boy pointed to the dark corner of the room, tears streaming down his face. "He's there," he whispered. "The black man with long arms. He says I should come play." She spun, torch in hand. Nothing, only shadows. But the laughter, soft, distant, and mocking, echoed through the rafters. Word spread quickly. Neighbors reported similar happenings: scratching, missing food, and overturned tables. One man found his horse's mane tied into intricate knots far too delicate for human hands to have made. Another woman woke with her bed suspended between two beams, tied there by ropes she didn't own. The Kallikantzaroi were out early that year, and they were bold. But none were as bold as the one targeting the widow's son. On the 12th night, Epiphany Eve, the Kallikantzaroi are at their strongest. It's their last chance to torment humans before the priest blessed the waters the next morning, forcing the creatures back underground. She knew she had to last until sunrise. She barricaded the windows, she stacked logs high in the hearth, and she sat awake beside her son, refusing even to blink. Everything was quiet, until it wasn't. A loud thud echoed across the roof, then another. Then the unmistakable drag of claws across tiles. Andreas clung to her skirt. "They're calling me," he whispered. "They need me to help finish the roots." She didn't understand the words, but she understood the fear. The chimney shook. Soot rained into the room. Then a long, thin arm plunged down into the fire, clawing wildly through the flames. She grabbed her iron poker and swung. The creature shrieked and recoiled, but 3 more arms appeared behind it, grasping, pulling, trying to widen the opening. They laughed wildly as they came. She had no options left. She seized the ladle of olive oil near the stove, doused the hearth, and thrust a burning log into it. The fire roared, higher than ever before. A howl filled the house as the creatures withdrew, their laughter turning to fury. And then she heard them. Outside, the bells rang. It was dawn, and the priests had begun blessing the river. The Kallikantzaroi fled back into the underworld, and Andreas collapsed into his mother's arms, exhausted. They'd survived. But even decades later, when Andreas grew into an old man, he swore he still heard faint scratching in the chimney every December. And sometimes, he swore he still heard the soft laughter. Most Greeks today know the Kallikantzaroi the same way we know Krampus. Folk creatures that belong to winter festivals, plays, and decorations. Kids laugh about them. Parents tell stories with a wink. Bakeries even sell cookies shaped like the little goblins. But if you visit the remote mountain villages, if you walk the quiet roads between stone houses, if you sit by an old fireplace on December 27th and hear faint scratching in the chimney, ask a local, just ask. You'll see the seriousness return to their eyes. You'll see the way they subtly check the fire, the way they glance at the chimney, and they'll tell you, keep your fire burning, don't leave food uncovered, and don't ever laugh back at the creatures in the dark, because laughter can be an invitation. and the Kallikantzaroi love an imitation. As we leave you here, remember, the legends of our weird world are boundless. If you've enjoyed the stories, please share, like, and subscribe to our channel for more content. Your support enables us to keep these stories alive. Until next time, stay curious and keep your fire bright enough to keep the goblins at bay.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.